In the heart of a towering glass skyscraper, the world's most powerful CEO, Elena Carter, sat silently in handcuffs, her usually commanding presence shattered. Outside the glass walls, city lights blurred into streaks of neon, but inside, only cold silence reigned. Across from her, a small girl with wide, searching eyes clutched a folded letter, the kind that held secrets better left buried. Elena's face, plastered on every major magazine, told a story of triumph, but behind those headlines was a shadowed past, one she fought desperately to keep hidden. A voice echoed in the room: he built an empire, but he couldn't save her. No names. No explanations. Just a chasm of mystery and heartbreak opening before us. But the city never sleeps, and neither did Elena, or so she told herself. But beneath the polished image of success lay years of sleepless nights and haunted memories. As the morning sun crept over the horizon, Elena's mind drifted back to a time before the boardrooms and headlines, when a young girl, abandoned and betrayed, vowed never to let the past define her future. The letter in the child's hands was a catalyst, a key to unlock a past she had tried to lock away forever. As the elevator chimed and her footsteps echoed in the empty hall, the air thickened with the weight of secrets waiting to unravel. In a smaller, dimly lit room far from the skyscraper's glare, a weathered photograph lay on a cluttered desk. A smiling woman with eyes full of hope, cradling a child whose face was scratched and faded by time. Elena's fingers trembled as she traced the image, the memories flooding back, the broken promises, the betrayals hidden beneath smiles. The letter was her reckoning, a bridge between what was and what could be. Somewhere beyond the polished glass and steel, a truth waited to surface, and with it, the chance to rewrite her story. Back in the penthouse office, the city's pulse was distant and muffled. Elena's reflection stared back at her from the glossy surface of the desk, eyes sharp but weary. The letter's presence was a silent storm brewing in the room, promising upheaval and revelation. With every breath, the past clawed its way closer, a relentless tide, threatening to drown the empire she built. But Elena's spirit, forged in fire and loss, refused to break. She folded the letter carefully, a fragile weapon in the fight for her redemption. Outside, the city roared obliviously, unaware of the battle raging within its tallest tower. Elena took a slow, steadying breath, and glanced once more at the letter, its secrets poised to shatter her carefully constructed world. The weight of a lifetime pressed down, but somewhere in the shadows hope flickered, a chance that the buried past might finally see the light, and with it, the truth that could either destroy or save her. Tonight, everything would change. Before she was a titan of industry, Elena was a child of hardship and broken promises. Raised in a small, neglected neighborhood, she witnessed her mother's relentless struggle to keep them afloat. The echoes of her mother's whispered prayers and tireless work haunted Elena's dreams, forging an iron will beneath her fragile exterior. She remembered sitting quietly in a cramped kitchen, watching her mother sew late into the night, vowing silently to rewrite their story. This promise became her beacon, the fire that propelled her beyond the boundaries fate had set. School was no sanctuary. Elena faced the harsh sting of judgment and exclusion daily. Whispers followed her down hallways, and cold shoulders greeted her in classrooms. Yet, amid the isolation, she found solace in books, worlds where dreams were limitless, and hope was not bound by circumstance. Her teachers noticed a spark within her, a quiet determination that refused to dim. In those pages, Elena found a glimpse of the life she wanted, one far removed from poverty and pain. Her teenage years brought new challenges and deeper scars. Trust was fragile, friendships were fleeting, and betrayal lurked around every corner. Yet Elena learned to harness her pain into power. Late nights studying under flickering bulbs, early mornings working part-time jobs. Every sacrifice laid the foundation of her future empire. Through it all, the letter remained a symbol she carried silently, a reminder of the family she'd lost, and the secrets she guarded fiercely. Elena's breakthrough came unexpectedly, a moment when talent met opportunity. A local entrepreneur recognized her potential and offered mentorship, opening doors previously locked tight. But success was not without cost. Every step forward demanded sacrifices unseen by the public. The woman who once begged for scraps now stood before boardrooms and investors, yet the shadows of her past whispered warnings. The letter she kept hidden was a silent pact, a secret that, if revealed, could topple everything she built. Today, Elena's empire spanned continents, but the weight of her secret past never eased. As the letter's truth began to ripple through whispered rumors and hushed meetings, the foundations of her carefully crafted identity trembled. Allies questioned loyalties, rivals sharpened their knives, and Elena faced the hardest battle yet, not in boardrooms, but within her own heart. The child who once vowed never to be defined by her past was now forced to confront it, knowing the coming storm would change everything. With fierce resolve, Elena launched her first business venture, a modest startup born from relentless nights and relentless dreams. Early victories felt like validation, but the cost was steep: lost birthdays, fractured friendships, and sleepless nights that blurred into days. Every success carried a hidden price tag, personal sacrifices invisible to outsiders. Investors praised her vision, but Elena wrestled with the loneliness of leadership, the quiet ache of a life sacrificed at the altar of ambition. As the company grew, so did the demands. And the stakes. Elena found herself negotiating high-stakes deals in sleek boardrooms, navigating a world dominated by skepticism and power plays. Each handshake was laced with cautious calculation, every word weighed carefully. The thrill of progress was tempered by the cold reality of competition. Rival CEOs watched her rise, ready to undermine at any moment. Behind her poised exterior simmered a storm of pressure, determination, and hidden fears. Amid the chaos of corporate battles, Elena's personal life frayed. Relationships with loved ones slipped away like sand through fingers, sacrificed on the altar of ambition. Calls went unanswered, anniversaries forgotten. The isolation that had once fueled her drive now gnawed at her spirit. She questioned the price of success. Was it worth the loneliness, the silences, the growing chasm between the woman she was and the woman she wanted to be? Despite the sacrifices, Elena pushed forward, driven by a vision bigger than herself. Her empire expanded, crossing borders and industries. But with growth came new enemies, boardroom betrayals, power struggles masked by polite smiles. Elena learned the brutal truth. In this world, loyalty was currency and trust was a gamble. Yet, through every challenge, her resolve hardened. The woman who rose from hardship refused to be broken, even as the cracks began to show beneath the surface. Behind closed doors, Elena carried a secret weight, one that threatened to unravel everything she had built. The letter she kept hidden was not just a reminder of her past, but a ticking time bomb. Whispers of its existence spread quietly through the corridors of power, threatening her reputation and legacy. The battle was no longer just for business. It was for her very identity. With everything on the line, Elena prepared for a reckoning that would shake the foundations of her empire. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Elena's closest ally, her trusted co-founder, was not who she believed him to be. Behind the sleek facade and friendly smiles lay betrayal. The man who had shared her vision was secretly her half-brother, a fact kept from her by a family rift that stretched back decades. This truth shattered her world and cast long shadows over her empire. Suddenly, every decision, every alliance felt tainted by deceit. Elena stood on the precipice of collapse, her foundation shaken by a secret too heavy to ignore. The letter's contents began to leak, spreading like wildfire among the corporate elite. Investors whispered, board members questioned, and the media circled with ravenous intent. Elena's carefully built empire suddenly felt exposed and vulnerable. Publicly, she maintained a calm composure, but privately, she wrestled with a growing storm of anxiety and betrayal. The past she fought so hard to bury was clawing its way to the surface, threatening to undo everything she had sacrificed. Behind closed doors, Elena confronted her co-founder, demanding answers. The air between them crackled with years of hidden resentment and unspoken truths. He admitted the secret but warned of even darker family histories, that threatened more than just their business. In that moment, Elena realized the battle was no longer just professional, it was deeply personal. The empire's survival hinged not just on strategy, but on facing painful family betrayals, long kept in the shadows. Word spread quickly, and alliances began to fracture. Trusted friends turned wary, rival companies sensed weakness, and Elena's public image wavered. The relentless scrutiny felt like a storm battering her from every side. Yet, through the chaos, Elena's resolve only strengthened. She gathered her closest supporters, promising to fight not just for the company but for the truth. The empire's future was uncertain, but Elena was ready to face the fallout head-on, no matter the cost. That night, alone in her penthouse, Elena unfolded the letter once more. Its words, heavy with truth and pain, echoed in the silence. Tears welled in her eyes, but her lips set in fierce determination. This was her reckoning. A moment of surrender and strength intertwined. She knew the path ahead would be grueling, but the past would no longer control her. With the letter as her guide, Elena resolved to reclaim her narrative and rebuild an empire from the ashes of betrayal. The boardroom was thick with anticipation. Today's vote could destroy everything Elena had built or save the legacy she fought so hard for. As she stepped forward, eyes fixed on her with a mix of skepticism and hope, Elena's voice was steady but charged with emotion. This empire is more than numbers and contracts. It's the culmination of sacrifice, resilience, and truth. Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea. The room fell silent, the weight of the moment crushing. This was the summit of her battle, the defining point where her empire's fate would be sealed. Opposition voices rose like a storm, cold and calculating. Some questioned Elena's ability to lead through scandal. Others pushed for drastic change. Yet, amid the conflict, unexpected allies emerged, trusted friends who believed in her vision and integrity. The vote became a battleground of wills, where every voice mattered. Elena's heart pounded as the final ballots were cast. In that charged silence, the future trembled on the edge of a knife, every second stretching into eternity. When the results were announced, relief and triumph washed over Elena in a wave so powerful, it nearly broke her composure. The vote had passed, her leadership reaffirmed, and her vision vindicated. Yet, victory was bittersweet. The scars of betrayal still ran deep, and the road ahead promised more battles. But in that moment, Elena allowed herself a breath, a fleeting moment of triumph before the next storm. The empire was safe, but the war for her legacy was far from over. Late that evening, Elena stood on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city, the cool night air wrapping around her like a cloak. The skyline glittered with possibility, each light a testament to battles won and futures forged. She reflected on the journey, from the girl clutching a letter in a shadowed office to the woman who faced down betrayal and emerged stronger. The empire was hers to lead, but more importantly, her story was hers to tell. The past had not broken her, it had made her. As dawn approached, Elena unfolded the letter once more, the words now a symbol of strength rather than shame. She whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." The letter was no longer a burden but a beacon, illuminating the path forward. With renewed purpose, she prepared to rewrite not just her company's future, but her own destiny. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Elena would face them head-on, armed with truth, courage, and the unyielding fire of a woman who refused to be defined by her past. In the stillness after the storm, Elena's world no longer felt like a fortress carved from steel and glass, but rather a delicate sculpture, shaped with painstaking care through sacrifice. Some seen, many unseen. The empire she had built was more than a symbol of power. It was now a reflection of her transformation. She was no longer just the relentless CEO fighting to protect her company at all costs. She had become a woman reclaiming her true identity, one forged in the crucible of hardship and betrayal, but tempered by newfound clarity and purpose. The past, once a relentless shadow threatening to consume her, had shifted from a cage into a foundation, a difficult but necessary grounding from which she could rebuild. Elena realized that surviving the past was not enough. She had to rise above it, redefine herself not as a victim of her history, but as the author of her future. This was her renaissance, not merely saving an empire, but discovering what it truly meant to be whole. The cracks left by betrayal and pain were no longer weaknesses, but scars marking a journey toward authenticity and redemption. Understanding that true leadership was more than individual triumph, Elena reached out to those she had once pushed away. Friends, family, and mentors left behind on the path of ambition's relentless climb. Rebuilding these fractured connections was a painstaking, slow process filled with tentative conversations and hesitant gestures, each one a fragile thread weaving trust back into the fabric of her life. Some bridges crumbled irreparably, others slowly flourished with newfound respect and understanding. Elena learned that an empire was only as strong as the people who inhabited it, and that genuine connection required vulnerability and patience. The cold, impersonal corridors of power gave way to moments of warmth and healing. These reconnections grounded her, offering support beyond spreadsheets and balance sheets. As she listened, apologized, and embraced, Elena discovered that lifting others as she climbed created a foundation far more resilient than any fortress of glass and steel. The empire was becoming not just a monument of wealth, but a community forged in shared resilience and empathy, where true power came from collective strength and trust. The letter, once a symbol heavy with shame, secrecy, and fear, had transformed into a beacon of truth and liberation. Elena finally embraced her past not as a chain, but as the roots anchoring her strength. She began to share her story openly, casting light on the shadows she once hid behind. At conferences, in candid interviews, and in heartfelt conversations with her team, Elena's vulnerability became a source of inspiration. She spoke of hardships, betrayals, and the courage it took to face the darkest corners of one's history. Her honesty resonated deeply, touching those who had walked similar paths of struggle and resilience. Through this transparency, Elena forged authentic connections with employees, investors, and the public. Her story was no longer a secret to be feared, but a rallying cry for courage and transformation. In sharing her truth, she found freedom, and in that freedom, true power. Elena understood that her greatest legacy would not be the wealth she amassed, but the courage she inspired in others to face their own pasts and rise beyond them. Elena's renewed vision rippled throughout the company, sparking profound change from the inside out. She instituted policies that reflected empathy and transparency, fostering a culture that valued people over profits. Departments once siloed now collaborated freely, sharing ideas in open spaces flooded with natural light and lush greenery. Employees felt heard and valued, sparking innovation and renewed loyalty. Elena's leadership evolved from one of command and control to one of empowerment and partnership. She walked the halls not as an untouchable figurehead, but as a visible presence, engaging, listening, and inspiring. The atmosphere shifted palpably. Tension gave way to enthusiasm. Suspicion transformed into trust. The scars from the past remained, but they were no longer wounds, but marks of growth and resilience. Elena's empire was reborn, not just as a business, but as a thriving community united by shared purpose and an unwavering commitment to rise above adversity together. As dawn crept over the horizon, Elena stood again by the expansive window of her penthouse, not as a woman haunted by secrets, but as one profoundly transformed by them. The sprawling city below glittered with the promise of endless possibilities, each shimmering light a testament to battles won, lessons learned, and futures forged anew. In her hand, the letter lay open, no longer a source of pain, but a cherished relic of her journey, a reminder that every ending births a new beginning. Her lips curved in a serene smile as she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." With renewed purpose and unwavering resolve, Elena prepared to rewrite not just the future of her company, but the story of her own life. Whatever storms awaited, she would meet them head-on, armed with truth, courage, and the indomitable spirit of a woman who refused to be defined by her past, but chose to rise beyond it. In the hushed stillness of the boardroom, with the first hints of dawn brushing the horizon, Elena stood alone, her figure silhouetted against the towering glass walls that overlooked the awakening city. The weight of the letter rested heavily but purposefully on the polished table before her, its pages worn and stained with the passage of time. As the city's pulse faintly vibrated beneath her feet, Elena's mind wandered through the labyrinth of her journey. The betrayals, the victories, the moments of unbearable loneliness, and the fierce resilience that refused to bend. This letter, once a source of unbearable shame and fear, had become her compass. She traced her finger over the faded ink, feeling the raw power of truth etched into every line. Whispering softly into the quiet room, she said to herself, "He left the company, but he never left her." Those words were not just a reflection on loss, but a solemn vow, a promise to carry forward the legacy she was determined to protect and reshape. The empire she had nurtured was no longer just a fortress of wealth and power. It was a beacon of truth and redemption. With this silent pledge, Elena steeled herself for the dawn, knowing that this moment marked not just an end, but the opening chapter of an entirely new story, her story. Beyond the glass walls of the skyscraper, the city erupted in bursts of vibrant fireworks, flashes of red, gold, and blue igniting the night sky in a dazzling celebration that went unnoticed by most but deeply felt by one. Elena's eyes traced the vibrant arcs of light, each explosion a silent salute to survival, strength, and the promise of renewal. The child she had once been, fragile, scared, and abandoned, looked out through her mature gaze, now fortified with an unshakable strength born from adversity. The letter she held, once a burden that weighed heavily on her shoulders, had transformed into a guiding map, illuminating the path forward through uncertain terrain with unyielding courage. As the fireworks faded into a cascade of shimmering sparks, Elena drew a deep breath, feeling the tension drain from her body. The future was still uncertain. Shadows of the past still flickered at the edges, but she was ready. Ready to meet the unknown head-on, knowing the past was no longer a prison, but a source of power, wisdom, and grace. The silence that followed was filled with a new kind of energy, a subtle buzz of connection and possibility. Elena's phone vibrated softly on the sleek desk beside her, its screen glowing with a message from an unexpected ally, a reminder that trust could be rebuilt and new partnerships forged, even in the aftermath of betrayal. She allowed herself a faint smile, the weight of isolation lifting ever so slightly. The battles she had endured were brutal, scarred by lies and heartbreak, but they had also forged alliances far stronger than steel. These newfound bonds, born from honesty and shared vision, offered a glimmer of hope and renewal. Elena's empire was no longer a solitary fortress, but an evolving community rooted in authenticity and resilience. The road ahead remained uncertain and strewn with challenges, but for the first time in a long time she felt ready. Her past was no longer a shadow stalking her steps but a guiding light leading toward a future rich with possibility and purpose. Morning brought with it a fresh wave of life and purpose. Elena stepped into the vibrant office filled with the lively hum of renewed energy and shared ambition. Colleagues greeted her with genuine smiles, conversations sparked around ideas once dormant, and the atmosphere was charged with a collective sense of possibility. As she moved through the open workspace, she was no longer the distant figurehead, but a visible, approachable leader, engaging personally, listening attentively, and inspiring through presence and example. The empire she had painstakingly rebuilt was no longer a kingdom ruled by one but a thriving community built on trust and collaboration. She saw in the eyes of her team the reflection of her own hard-won lessons, resilience, courage, and the power of truth. Elena's heart swelled with quiet pride, knowing the greatest victory was no longer measured in profits alone, but in the strength of the bonds they forged together as a family of visionaries and believers. As the sun climbed higher, Elena returned to her office, overlooking the city that sparkled with promise beneath a crystal-clear sky. With steady hands she placed the letter, the symbol of her journey, carefully into a sleek glass display case, transforming it from a painful relic into a cherished testament of survival and growth. Her reflection merged with the cityscape behind her, no longer haunted by the ghosts of her past, but radiant with the wisdom earned through trials. The shadows that once threatened to consume her had receded, replaced by a fierce light of understanding and acceptance. With a calm breath, she whispered a final vow to herself. This story is mine to write. And with that, she turned from the window, stepping confidently into a future shaped by truth, courage, and infinite possibility. A future defined not by secrets, but by the strength of a woman who dared to rise beyond them.